Dirtle Magic! Hello and welcome back. You can follow our post on Twitter and Facebook at DirtleMTG to stay up to date on our latest videos and other posts, and you can join a more robust discussion about casual Commander at our blog, TheDiceBag.blog. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this content to help the channel and the blog grow. Another way you can support the channel, though, is through our affiliate links in the description below. If you're looking for single sealed product or gaming accessories to protect all of that glory, please consider clicking the links in the description. Now, grab some spells, it's time to dirtle. Hello. Today I take a careful peek at Aminatou, hoping she doesn't change my fate. Our opponents are Athreos the Shroud Veiled, Grenzo Dungeon Warden, and Nethroi Apex of Death. Grenzo wins the die roll, and they play a Badlands to start the game off. Nethroi plays a Swamp, and casts a Deathrite Shaman. My turn announces a Sun Titan to hand, and I play a Plains and pass the turn. Athreos plays a Swamp. Grenzo has a Tainted Peak hit the table, and then they cast their commander. Nethroi puts a Bountiful Promenade into play. They then go to attacks and attack Athreos for 1, and Athreos goes down to 39. Utter End begins my turn. I play another Plains and cast Orzhov's Signet. Athreos plays a Plains and passes their turn. Grenzo puts a Mountain into play, and then casts Goblin Chieftain. On the attacks, Grenzo swings into the Nethroi player. They take 3 and go down to 37, and up to 3 commander. Nethroi casts Stitcher Supplier. It enters and mills them 3 cards. My turn rolls around, and I'm granted another Plains. I play it, and I cast the Archon of Absolution to stave off any Goblin aggression. Athreos has a Swamp enter on their turn, and they cast Arcane Encyclopedia. 2 the Dungeon Warden, and a Swamp comes into play. Krunko Mod Boss then comes into play, and is immediately activated to create 3 Hasty Goblin tokens. In combat, they swing Grenzo into the Nethroi player, and the rest of the available Goblins into Athreos. Nethroi blocks with a Supplier against Grenzo. Supplier goes down and triggers, and damages good against Athreos, who goes down to 31. Nethroi plays an Ancient Tomb on their turn. World Shaper then comes down. They pass the turn. My turn brings up an island, and I play it. I cast Utter End, targeting Krunko, who promptly gets exiled. Athreos finds Cabal Coffers on their table to start the turn. They activate the Arcane Encyclopedia, and draw a card, and pass the turn. To Grenzo's turn, and Maze of Ith muddles things up. They activate their commander, getting a Mountain and Vesuva to the graveyard. 2 attacks, and they swing a full attack into Athreos. Nothing to be done about it, and Athreos goes down to 20. Nethroi drops a Plains. They then cast Smothering Tithe. On the attack, and both creatures run into the Grenzo player. World Shaper triggers to mill the owner 3 cards, and damage is good. Grenzo goes down to 36. My turn brings me nothing new to cast, so I pay for the first Smothering trigger. I get a Vault of Champions on my turn. I play it, and I cast my commander, Aminatou the Fate Shifter. I activate her +1, and draw a Plains. I don't pay for this triggering of the Tithe, and put Venser on top of my deck. I pass the turn afterward. Athreos puts a Swamp onto the table, and casts Gary, aka the Grey Merchant of Asphodel. Each of their opponents lose 2 life, and Athreos gains 6, ending the turn at 26 life for them. Grenzo ends at 34, Nethroi at 31, and me at 38. Grenzo casts Dockside Extortionist, gaining 6 treasure. They cycle a Forgotten Cave and follow that up with a Grenzo activation, nabbing a Goblin War Driver. Goblin Trashmaster makes an appearance afterward, pumping the Goblins even further. In combat, they attack with everything into Nethroi and trigger Battlecry, pumping their Goblins again. Nethroi has no defense, taking lethal damage and going down to -3. My turn brings me back Venser. I play an island and cast a Noxious Gearhulk, destroying the Goblin Trashmaster and gaining 4 life. I then blink it with my commander and destroy the Goblin Chieftain, gaining 2 more life. I end the turn at 44 and pass. Athreos' turn has a Plains come into play. Fumigate is then cast, and they gain 9 life while wiping the board. They end the turn at 35 life. Grenzo recast their commander and pass. Massacre Girl makes an appearance on my turn to my hand. I play a Plains and then activate my commander, drawing my own Grey Merchant. I cast it after putting Sun Titan on the top of my deck. I drain my opponents for 3 and gain 9. I end the turn with 50 life, and my opponents are at 32 and 31 respectively. Athreos casts their commander. Moving to the end step, they put a coin counter on my Grey Merchant in an attempt to steal it. They pass. Grenzo casts Grenzo Havoc Razor on their turn. Some awkward time shenanigans, I'm sure. Grenzo is activated, and Vial Smasher hits the field from the dungeon below. In combat, Grenzo the Warden swings into Athreos, dealing 2 damage and bringing them down to 30 and up to 2 commander. My turn delivers my Sun Titan back to hand. I cast Venser, and then I activate my commander to blink the Grey Merchant, and it gets blinked but negates the coin counter because the resolution of the ability says it comes back under my control. I then slow blink it with Venser, who exiles it till end of turn. Moving to the end of turn, it comes back to play. All of this gains me 12 life, and drains my opponents for 6 each. Athreos' turn has them cast Crib Swap on my Grey Merchant, exiling it and giving me a 1/1 colorless changeling. Erebos, God of the Dead, then hits the field, followed by Humiliate, targeting the Grenzo player. Grenzo reveals Blasphemous Act, Goblin Recruiter, Goblin Warstrike, Last One Standing, and Mogcatcher. Goblin Recruiter is chosen to be discarded with the Humiliate. At the end of the turn, Grenzo Havoc Razor gets a coin counter placed on them. To the Grenzo player, and they immediately move to combat. They swing everything into Athreos, they go down to 18, and Havoc Razor triggers 3 times to exile the top cards, revealing Angel of Despair, Angelic Skirmisher, and Lucille, which is thankfully getting a magic reprint version at some point. In the second main, the Grenzo player casts Sling Gang Lieutenant, triggering Vial Smasher, which deals 4 damage to Athreos. Sling Gang enters the battlefield, making 2 Goblin tokens. They then cast Goblin Warstrike on Venser, and he hits the bin. My turn reveals a swamp. I activate Aminatou to draw 1 card, and put the Agent of Treachery back on top. I move to attacks, and swing the Changeling token into the Athreos player. They take 1, going down to 13. In the second main, I cast Massacre Girl, and the Grenzo player responds by sacrificing the majority of their goblins to the Sling Gang, dealing damage to me until I'm down to 57. Massacre Girl then comes into play, and wipes the remaining creatures. I pass. Athreos begins to draw as many cards as they can with Erebos, losing 2 life each time they do so. They end up at 1, and move to the end step, and concede the game. Down to just me and Grenzo, it moves to their turn. Mogcatcher enters the battlefield, and they pass. I draw the Agent of Treachery, and cast it. With its ETB, I steal the Mogcatcher. I then blink the Agent with my commander, and steal the Maze of Ith. Moving to attacks, I swing with the Massacre Girl, and the Grenzo player takes 4, going down to 21. Grenzo's turn has Baron Moore come into play. They promptly cast Last One Standing, wiping the board all except for the Mogcatcher, and they pass. Corpse Knight rises on my turn, and I cast it. I go to combat and attack with the Mogcatcher to bring my opponent down to 19. I then draw a card with Aminatou and put the swamp back on top. Thespian Stage enters on Grenzo's turn. They recast their commander, and pass. During my turn, I get a swamp and use Aminatou to draw another card. It's a Dimir Signet, and I put it back on top. I play the swamp and activate the Mogcatcher to essentially shuffle my deck to hopefully get something good on top for the next turn. Grenzo plays Krenko, 10 Street Kingpin to start their turn. They then activate their commander and put Living Death into their graveyard. I get an island for the turn, which isn't helpful. I activate my commander and get the infinitely more helpful Lavinia of the 10th. I cast her, triggering both her and the Corpse Knight. I detain my opponent's permanents that are mana value 4 or less, and drain 1 life from my opponent. I go to attacks, and since detained objects can't block, I swing with both the Catcher and the Knight, dealing 4 damage and bringing Grenzo down to 14. Grenzo's turn sees a Brass Herald enter the battlefield, which unfortunately can't be detained by Lavinia. They pick the creature type as Goblin, and pass. I draw another land, and activate my commander, revealing a Plains. Yeah, I put the Plains back on top, and play the island. I pass the turn. Grenzo casts Goblin Chirurgian? I'm not sure, but it basically means Surgeon. And then they activate the commander twice, and get 2 lands to the graveyard. They decide not to attack, and pass. At the end of the turn, I activate the Mogcatcher again to shuffle my deck. My turn gives me an Arcane Signet, because my deck likes to troll me. I cast it, and then blink Lavinia with my commander, detaining and draining again. I pass, not wanting to lose a creature to the Brass Herald on the attack. Grenzo plays a Goblin Sharpshooter, and passes the turn. I get a Godless Shrine on my turn, and I'm beginning to lose hope of ever drawing anything to break the stalemate. I play it and blink Lavinia again, drain and detain, and I pass. Back to Grenzo, and they cast Chancellor of the Forge. It enters and creates 6 Goblin tokens. To the attack, and the Goblins swing into Aminatou. I use the Stolen Maze of Ith to remove one of them from combat, and block another one with Lavinia. Aminatou goes down, and I leave her in the graveyard. My turn gives me a swamp. I cast Sun Titan, draining life and bringing back my commander. I blink Lavinia and the cycle continues. I pass with the swamp in hand. Grenzo plays a mountain and passes. My turn delivers a long road home, at least it's not a land. I draw a card with Aminatou and put the Swan Song back on top. I use Long Road Home to blink Lavinia, which Grenzo responds to by activating their commander 4 times, but only receiving a Goblin General. Grenzo's turn begins with an Icon of Ancestry, and I activate the Mogcatcher in response to shuffle again. The icon is activated during combat, but no attacks occur. My turn brings me Tithe, and I'm sure my deck hates me at this point. I cast Tithe to get lands out of my deck, and Grenzo activates their commander. I get a Snowfield Sinkhole and play it. I blink Lavinia and pass. Grenzo casts Mad Auntie on their turn, which is yet another Goblin Lord effect. Still no attacks, and it rolls to me. I get Afara, God of the Polis, and eagerly cast it to increase my card draw. Grenzo is activated in response, followed up by Icon of Ancestry. Afara comes into play active, and I blink Lavinia, detaining and draining down to 6. Moving to Grenzo's turn, Afara triggers and I get Pilgrim's Eye, because I need more lands. Grenzo plays a Kindred Charge on their turn, and things turn dire real fast. Goblin Sharpshooter takes the major role in getting me down into strike range for lethal. Grenzo moves to attacks after Sharpshooter is done and swings. I block what I can, but go down to the Horde at exactly 0. Good game to my opponents. Unfortunately, I have this thing with Aminatou as my commander, where I have the habit of sitting back and kind of dirtling to gain value, which is what did me in here. I should have attacked with Lavinia earlier in the game to get that damage in and change my fate. And this is why I no longer have a paper deck of Aminatou. Anyway, until next time, stay safe out there.